Hello and welcome once again to Rockbridge Wrap-Up. I'm Alex Maragos. Throughout the last month, we've brought you an in-depth look at 3 local football teams, most recently focusing on the Rockbridge County Wildcats. While football will continue to draw our interest throughout the fall, we're taking a break to bring you a spring sport with an important fall event. This Friday, Washington and Lee and VMI will compete in the 26th annual Lee Jackson Lacrosse Classic. In just a few minutes, I'll chat with VMI senior attackman Russell East, but right now I'd like to welcome to the show the General's 2-time All-American defenseman Joe LaSala. Joe, thanks for being on the program.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
So lacrosse is obviously a spring sport, and although you guys train and practice almost year-round, it seems like, what is it like facing another team in the fall?
Well, I think it's just a great opportunity. I mean, we always have fall ball, which is 16 practices that's allowed to us, so we're really kind of just beating up on each other, really working hard, really focusing on getting in shape, really working on, kind of getting the stick work together and making sure that we know all the offensive and defensive sets. But what is so awesome about the Lee Jackson Classic is that it's now another time for us to show what we've learned this fall and show what we've worked on and really go at another team. And I think that everybody really responds to that, because when you're playing against your own teammates, you're always working hard, you're always battling and fighting against each other, but there's a new element that gets added when you're fighting against somebody else. And obviously with the VMI game, it's such a historic game. It means so much to both schools, and it really means a lot to the town. I think that's why we get such a great showing every year. So to really have that element involved and to go at another team as hard as we do, I just think it's great for our team, and it's just a lot of fun.
Now, the Generals play in a tough lacrosse conference in the ODAC. There seems to be more than one team that's nationally ranked every season. Mm-hmm. But in this Lee Jackson Classic, you get to play a Division I opponent. Talk about how that makes your team better.
VMI is a great team. They have a lot of great talent year in and year out. And I think that seeing some of the ability and the athleticism of a D1 team, it really just makes us better. And going against somebody who every year plays teams like Navy, UVA, Army, West Point, and teams like that, it just adds another element, and it really helps us, kind of get new exposure to different teams. Where D3 teams, sometimes maybe there's sometimes sharper skills or there's more focus on things like offensive sets and stick work. With D1 teams, they're just so athletic and they're so strong and so fast. So to be able to go up against a team like that and to really have to fight and claw your way the whole 4 quarters, I think it really toughens us up and it gets us ready for the season.
As I just mentioned, this is the 26th year that the game has taken place. WNL holds the all-time lead by a pretty good margin. But is there a heightened sense of importance when you play VMI? You talked a little bit about that with the town, but what else do you feel before you go into this game?
There's a good rivalry between WNL and VMI, and I can't really put my finger on it or why it is, but for whatever reason, since we got here as freshmen, there was kind of a sense that VMI didn't like us and we don't like VMI. And we definitely saw that in lacrosse in freshman year. For all these seniors, why I really think this game is so important for us is that our freshman year we lost to VMI. And that was a huge disappointment for me. It was a huge disappointment for all of my grade as freshmen. And it was a huge disappointment for the team. So I think remembering that, it really kind of added fuel to our fire for the next 2 years. And I think that's why we've been able to have so much success against them for the last 2 years. And I think this third year, all of the seniors are really trying to finish off our record against VMI 3-1. We don't want to go 500 and go 2-2. And I think that's why this year is specifically so important. But overall, as I said, there's just kind of that element that they don't like us, we don't like them, and that's all right. It adds to the game. Sometimes things get a little chippy, but we like that. We like having, being put in a dogfight and having our backs to the wall and really having to claw our way for 4 quarters. And I think that's why this game is such a great environment.
Now, last season, the team was 8-8 heading into the playoffs, a little bit mediocre throughout the middle of the season. Mm-hmm. But then towards the end, you started to play your best lacrosse with 2 playoff wins before you lost in the ODAC championship. So what actually came together last season that made you play your best lacrosse at the end?
That's a good question. Unfortunately, I wasn't there to play for the playoffs. I retore my ACL against Roanoke in the regular season. But I think that things just started to click for our offense. Our midfielders started playing a lot better. They were working together well. And the midfield and the attack really started meshing in the offense. And, we always believed in ourselves. We always knew that we had the talent and capabilities, but sometimes during the season it just doesn't fall into place. You know, things don't go your way. But we stayed tough, we kept fighting, we stayed positive, we tried to as best as we could, and things really kind of panned out for us in the end, at least with regard to those first 2 ODAC playoff games. You know, we took down Hampden-Sydney that we lost to in the regular season, and then we beat Roanoke, which was the first time that we'd beaten Roanoke since I've been at Washington Lee, which was a huge win. And I think that just shows the perseverance and determination of our team, and I think it really proved the toughness of our players. And to finish on such a high note as we did, unfortunately losing to Lynchburg, who, you know, got to hand it to them, they were an excellent team last year. But to finish on a high note, beating 2 out of the 3 of our biggest rivals in the ODAC tournament, you know, we just really always wanted to build off of that. And I think we've really seen that this fall. We're really working hard, really working well together. And we just want to keep that positive energy and that focus going on Friday, and more importantly, moving on into the season this upcoming spring.
Now, looking ahead to this season, the Generals are losing 3 senior defensemen. I mean, that's your bread and butter. That's your side of the field. Mm-hmm. What kind of onus does that put on you heading into this year?
You know, it's tough, you know, losing guys like Brian Stuckey, Jack Hurley, Jason Harden. I mean, they were all such great players with a lot of experience, and they're definitely going to be missed. At the same time, we have a lot of young talent coming up. You know, we have Peter Schubert, who got a lot of time last year. Connor O'Toole got a lot of time last year, and they're both showing a lot of promise. And at the same time, we have kids that maybe didn't play last year, but now, when they were freshmen and sophomores last year, being juniors and sophomores this year, they're that much more hungry to get on the field. You know, they really want to be out there, and you know, that translates to really tough practices. People really going against each other and fighting hard, and I think that we've seen that with a lot of our defense going after kids this year, and it's been great seeing them go after our attackmen because it makes our attackmen better. And I think that when you actually release those kids that are trying to get on the field so bad, really want to make a name for themselves, when you put them on Friday against VMI, I think they're really going to try their hardest, and I think they're going to be getting after kids. So I'm really excited to see that. As far as this spring, I mean, I'm still rehabbing. I'm right on schedule to be coming back right in time for the season, which I'm obviously very excited about. You know, I've never had a season-ending injury until my sophomore year, and then to have one back-to-back years, it was very difficult for me. But at the same time, I think that makes me that much more focused and that much more hungry to get back on the field this year. And it's my last year of competitive sports, and I'm really excited to try my best and just give it my best shot and go out there and play as hard as I can. And you know, as a senior defenseman, you know, I have a lot of great support and a lot of other great leaders that are seniors out there. You know, Andrew Fusselbaugh, who's seen time all through his college career. George Brook at Long Pole Medi, who's been getting a lot of time, who got a lot of time last year, and I'm sure that he will remain. You still get time this year as well. I mean, there's a lot of senior leadership on the defense still. I think that we have a lot of hungry young talent coming back, and not to mention these freshmen that are coming in. I mean, there's a lot of very strong players and very capable players, and I'm really excited to see them develop as lacrosse players and athletes. And you know, I really just want to help facilitate their growth and help them get better in any way that I can. And all the seniors and all the juniors are always trying to do that for our younger guys. And you know, it's not really me going against you. It is that a little bit because we're both contending for the same spot. But at the same time, we realize that these guys are the future of our program, and we want them to be successful. We want them to be great defensemen. And I think that when everybody's working for that goal and working for the program, the lacrosse program, and for WNL and what we represent, I think that, you know, the proof is in the pudding. And our defense has been spectacular pretty much every year that I've been here, and I'm very proud of that. And we have a lot of pride as a defense. And, you know, we know that our offense is going to get goals and really keep us in every game, and we want to make sure that our defense keeps everything respectable and always can shut down every offense that we face. And, you know, I think with, as I said, the senior leadership that we have coming back, the juniors coming back, and the young guys, sophomores and freshmen who are going to be contending for time, I think that our defense is going to be very fierce this year, and we're going to get after a lot of offenses. And I'm really excited to see that on Friday as well.
Now, you're a two-time team captain now in your senior year, so assess the team a little bit in that role. Assuming everyone comes back healthy and ready to go, how good can this team be, and what are your realistic goals?
Well, I have so much faith in our senior leadership. I talked about the seniors on the defense, but obviously we have a lot of seniors at midfield and attack as well. And really, I am looking to have an ODAC championship before I leave this place. And I think that that is the goal of every senior, and that's the goal of every person on our team. And I think that we realize the opportunity that we have this year. We have a lot of strong seniors. We have a lot of strong, just a lot of strong talent on our team. And I'm really excited to see what we can do. I think that some of the ODAC is a little bit weaker than usual. Personally, I don't think that Roanoke has the horses that it's had in the past. And I think that Lynchburg lost a lot of their offensive power last year. So it's kind of like the throne's for the taking, and we want to be contenders for it. Whether or not that actually happens, we'll have to wait and see. But I think that it is our main goal to win ODACs, and possibly just as important, if not more important, to make it to the NCAA tournament and be contenders for the NCAA championship. And I think that should be the goals for us every single year. But this year, I really believe that everyone thinks that that is our main goal, and that is something that we can attain. And that's what makes this season so exciting. And I guess as you questioned before, as a senior captain, looking at our team, I'm just very optimistic. I'm very excited about this season. And, I was very excited and optimistic about last season as well. But things didn't end up going our way, obviously, with Lynchburg beating us in the ODAC championship. And we're kind of hoping to right the ship this year and to get WNL the ODAC championship that we've been wanting to get since the last time we got it in 2009. And I think that we're very capable, and I believe that we can do that.
Well, Joe, thanks for the time, and good luck in the spring.
Thanks for having me, Alex.
The first official Lee Jackson Lacrosse Classic was held in 1988 at WNL's Wilson Field. VMI took the opening contest 15-9, but the Generals won each of the next 16 times until the streak was finally broken in 2005. Last year, the Generals escaped with a 9-8 victory at Wilson Field. Joining me now is Russell East, a senior attackman for the Keydets who has played in 3 of the Lee Jackson games. Russell, thanks for the time.
No problem, man. Anytime.
So WNL may hold the all-time mark between the two teams, but do you feel that the tide is beginning to turn with VMI over the last few years?
I do, personally, because of what our new coach has done with our system. He's bringing in better recruits. He's bringing in kids that want to be at VMI. We used to recruit kids just because they were good lacrosse players, but at I guess what some people call an adverse atmosphere where we're at, that we don't retain some of those players, and you gotta keep those guys around so you can develop them, make better players. And Coach Ankin has done that. He's got a great system in place. We're getting guys in the weight room that are getting stronger. So I think that's evident over the last 3 of my 4 years. We've had a victory, a close game. I think so. It's starting to become more even, and I definitely think we're going to maybe start to even out some of these games in the future.
Yeah, and there have been some close games over the last several years. So how fun is it to play in a competitive game with a next-door neighbor in WNL?
The rivalry is fantastic. It's like our culmination of our fall season. I'm sure it's for Washington Lee as well. You spend so much time preparing for 6 weeks out in the cold, kind of by yourself, beating up on each other, and then you finally get it's almost like a high school football night. Under the lights, there's tons of people there, and everybody's all pumped up. So it's just a great atmosphere to kind of bring the fall together and see how much you've improved and what you still have to work on when the spring season comes around.
Now, coming into these games, does it feel like the team has an advantage as a Division I school playing against the Division III school?
Typically the only difference I've ever seen between some Division I and Division III schools is the size difference, really. Division I players may be a little bit bigger, but the skill and the speed, of the game is really not much drop off. The only advantage I've ever seen is maybe that we have some bigger kids, but again, that's not exactly what the game's about. It's about the speed of the game and the stick work and the knowledge of the game, which, frankly, I think we've improved upon quite a bit. So I think, really not much to me. So whoever can execute the best is really who's going to take the cake.
Now, last season the team was 4-10, but 2 wins were in conference. But a lot of the losses that you guys had were by 1 or 2 goals. Yeah. So how close is the team to turning those losses into wins?
We were seconds. That's all it took. A lot of those games we were winning in the last 2 minutes, and that's the way lacrosse is. Especially with the new rule changes, everything's gonna be much faster. It's gonna be a lot harder to, maintain that lead, especially with the shot clock and everything like that. So I think we're on the cusp. And last year we have no excuses. We should have won every one of those games that we had, and we should have won the conference. But you learn from that. We're gonna move forward from it.
Now, 2 years ago was Coach Ankin's first season at VMI, and you went 2-11 and winless in the conference there. So seeing how you've improved over the last 2 years, what are the expectations and the goals that you have for this upcoming season in the spring?
Well, Coach Ankin's always said from day one, our expectation is always to win the conference championship. If you don't want to be the best, then there's no reason to really even try. You always want to strive to be the best, and we're going to strive to win that conference championship. And you look at the teams that were in the conference tournament, we beat the number 2 seed the last game of the season. We lost by 2 goals to the eventual conference championship with 26 turnovers that we were on ourselves. So that's 26 extra possessions, we gave them. They were a great team, but that was kind of a game I think we shot ourselves in the foot with. So, the strides he's made are not as evident from the record that we made in just 1 year. So I think, it's going to keep building on itself, and eventually, we're going to really get rolling here.
Now the team lost its 2 top scorers in Keith Long and Drew Leonard. So what kind of pressure does that put on you and the rest of the offense for this year?
Well, I think I personally developed a lot, and I learned a lot from Keith because, his knowledge of the game and what he did, I got to learn from that and kind of not necessarily imitate it, but I can use that in my own arsenal. And, honestly, we brought in a lot of good freshmen, and a lot of the soft freshmen from last year that are now sophomores are just – they've made a lot of improvements. I mean, we got some young guys that are making big strides, and I think we have more depth this year than we did last year. Me and Keith pretty much ran into the ground last year. We had some tired legs after those games, but we got a lot of guys this year that put in a lot of work in the offseason, and I think that's really going to contribute to balancing out where those goals came from in the long run.
So turning back to the game on Friday, it's at Wilson Field again this year. You've played there before. What do you like about it? What don't you like about it being kind of on the road just right next door?
I actually prefer it because it's kind of, it's away, but it's kind of a neutral site. All of our parents come, the freshmen the Rats are coming over. We're used to playing on a turf field. It'd pretty much be the exact same scenario if we had bleachers on our practice field because, eventually I think coaches wants to turn that into a stadium. But, we play better on turf, so I'd rather play there than on our grass field for the football field. It's just we're used to it. It's a faster game. I think it makes for a better game. So I actually prefer it. I like the atmosphere. It makes for an exciting time. And, it feels like we're invading a little bit, I guess, from the military standpoint, as cliche as that may be. But it's a good time.
Now, WNL held on to win last year's Lee Jackson Classic only by 1 goal.
Right.
How important is it for your team to reclaim that trophy this year?
It's not like it's going to make or break us no matter what. Our most important thing is playing Navy that first opening game and winning a MAC championship. So it's definitely, the game, our next thing is right in front of us. So Washington Lee's right in front of us. That's what we're focused on. When that's over, we've got more scrimmages on Sunday. So for this game, it's definitely important to us. We want to win. We want to be competitive. We want to make sure it's very important to us. But it's not like it's the be-all, end-all. It's not our national championship, I guess you could say.
Well, Russell, good luck this Friday. Thanks
Absolutely.
for the time.
Thank you.
That's all the time we have for today. Again, the 26th annual Lee Jackson Lacrosse Classic is this Friday, October 26th at 7:30 on WNL's Wilson Field. Thanks again to Joe LaSala and Russell East for joining me today. For all of us at Rockbridge Wrap Up, I'm Alex Maragos. Thanks for watching.